Hello. Hi, everyone. Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Hello.
Hello. I'm glad
Hi guys.
to see everyone. So we will wait maybe a couple of minutes and then start everything. But for now, I'd like again to share a link to the GIST if anyone wants to do the same as I will show. Please follow the steps to install the Git, Docker, and Insomnia tool itself. I've posted it to the chat. Okay. And also, if you haven't joined our group on Slack, please join us. I will share the link. We are using the Ministry of Testing Slack, and we have a dedicated group. Let me share the link. Just a second. Ministry testing Slack. Okay. I've posted the link to the chat. Please check. Let me share the screen. We will wait maybe a couple of minutes and then we'll start. Can someone please confirm that my screen is visible?
Yes,
Yes,
it's visible.
Okay,
yes,
great. Cool. So, okay, we have more participants. 7 participants already. Great. Okay. I think we can start because for now it's not about the workshop itself, just some notes. We are conducting second online event for Ministry of Testing. So, hello, Divan. Just a second. So, just a couple notes about myself and what I'm going to do. I'm Anton. I'm working as a software tester for 8 years. I like to break backend services. It's my passion. And I'm using Java and Python for automation. But today we will discuss not automation itself. We will talk about Insomnia.rest client. It's my favorite tool to test API. Before that, I'd like again to remind that these kind of meetups are place for everyone to share the practices, to learn from each other, and basically to grow our local testing network. Unfortunately, we cannot meet each other offline because of this post-COVID era, but so we have Zoom, we have other tools, and we are not limited to Abu Dhabi. Uh, we can gather with all over the world, and we can meet with many great people and share the knowledge. So if you want to share some comments, or if you want to present something, please use our hashtag on social media. And what is important, I encourage you to join our Meetup Abu Dhabi channel on Slack. I've posted that link on our chat. If you check, you can in couple of minutes create an account on Ministry of Testing Slack and join our Meetup channel. It would be great to discuss uh, all I'm going to talk about here, and later just have a chat about your work experience, anything. So, and again, today I will talk about Insomnia. We'll show some demo, but we are not limited to only some demonstrations. I really like to hear from anybody who joined, and if you want to share some best practices, tools, programming languages, anything, just let me know, drop me a message, and maybe next time you will be part of presenters and you will show something interesting for the community. This is really important. So let me check how many people we have. 8 participants. Oh, already 7. Never mind. I think we can start. So today I'm going to talk about insomnia, and this is basically REST client for debugging APIs, and just to have a common ground, let's talk about how does the web work. Everybody knows about Google. If you open the browser and hit google.com at the address bar under the hood, your browser goes to DNS server to get the IP of the servers. Then the browser requests some data, sending HTTP requests, getting from the server responses, and then browser just show result of many requests with pictures, nice buttons, and render the page for you. But under the hood, it's tons of requests, and all those requests mostly are using curl library. This is the most popular library for HTTP, I believe. You can use it in command line. So here you can see some pretty simple examples. If you hit curl without anything, it will just send get request. and show you the response from the server. You can specify request type. You can do many different things. And the problem is that if you deal with curl, it's not so easy to switch between requests. It's not so easy to share the responses, and that's why we have several UI components that are using curl. The most popular, I believe, is Postman. So Postman just do the same things, but it presents some UI, and you can drag and drop requests, and this is just like a client for the curl. And today I'm going to present Insomnia. I believe that it's not so popular than Postman, but personally I prefer this tool more because I think it's simpler, and if you need just to check some APIs and to understand, like to conduct some exploratory testing or so on, this tool is perfect, and you can use it then to share the request with developers. If you want to create a bug, you can share the collection of requests with other testers on the project. So tool is pretty useful. And today we are going to check the real application. I spent almost 3 days trying to find something that will be not like simple to do app, but something that looks like real web application. And I found an example on GitHub. This project called Conduit, and this is like a clone of very popular medium.com. So some guys decided to create this medium.com blog on different languages using different kind of frameworks. And today I will just use their Spring Boot implementation for backend, and optionally you can install frontend. I will be using React and check how it works on my local machine. So basically we will test and check this Conduit application. So finally it's demo time. I can close this window. Can you see my screen now?
Yes, we can see.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Great. I'm just wondering, does anybody want to test with me the same API? Does anybody check this GIST URL? If not, I will just proceed. If someone has questions regarding how to get these sources and how to execute these commands, please let me know. We can spend some time. If we are fine, I will just proceed with my local machine and with my installation. I will share the recording of this session later, so you will be able to make the same things. So what I'm going to do first we need to deploy our backend service. Oh, we have more people coming. Please join us. So I will start. What I want to do is to deploy my backend service and front-end service. I will use Docker Compose for it. So let me start my backend service and let me start my front-end service. To check that everything is fine, we can use following links. So here is the link to check. Okay, it's not deployed yet. Let me check. Should be fine now. Okay, some problem with backend. Okay, finally backend is started. We can see tags response, and it means that this front end also can work now. So we have web application. It's a blog platform. We have our backend deployed. Let's get started with Insomnia. What I have here, just let me start from the beginning. What I want to do is first organize my environments. I will use my local machine as an environment, and I can check and manage environments here. The environments is basically JSON document that will share the variables for your collection. I have already predefined two environments, and I just named them as local with Ayak. This is my user that I'm going to use, and local with Skywalker. Again, this is second user I'm going to use. They are sharing the same API URL, and the user credentials are different. To switch between environments, I can use hotkeys like that and type something like Ayak, and that's it. To log in, I have to register my user. So you can see that currently we cannot proceed because backend doesn't know about my user, nothing. So first of all, I'm going to send a request for registration. So what we have here, we have specified request. It will be post request. We have our URL that leverage API URL environment variable. You can check that it equals to localhost at port number 8080, and we will send this JSON payloads to that URL. And you can also check what will be inside these variables. So basically, this request will create a user for me. So we have email, password, username that we just get from this document. So I'm executing. I can like click send button here, or just type command enter. That's it. User is created. We can check the response HTTP code. How much time that it took? the response size. Here we have a preview of the response. Here we have headers from response, cookie, but for now we don't have it because this application is using bearer token for authentication. And if you click the timeline, you will have like the same output as if you run the command in debug mode on your terminal. So here, how we communicate to HTTP server, we are sending post to the users with our user agent, content type application JSON, and the body like that. And here is our response, headers of response. Okay, great. As you can see, we have token. This token will be used to send all the requests under our user. So now we can check that if I'm using IAC user, I will be able to execute user's login endpoint. And now I have my token here. What is important, let's say I'm sending several requests like that. I'm just repeating. If I click here on the right, I can check the history of my requests and their statuses. And this is also very useful if you are dealing with some service. Let's say a new version come up and the behavior is different. You can just open that history and check how the service previously how the service replied previously. This is really useful. You can check like the previous error messages and so on, like that. So we got token. Now we want to use this token for all our requests. How to do that? This is basically can be achieved in different ways, but I think the most easy way is to reference the result of the response in all our subsequent requests. Here I have an example. Let's say I want to execute current user endpoint. Here I have to use bearer token authentication. Insomnia has many different authentication mechanisms, but I'm going to use just bearer token. And this is like prefix how I want to send the header with the token. It should be like that token. Here is the magic. If you start typing response in any place, you will have like a hint from Insomnia. You can use response body attribute, header, or URL as a variable for your requests. I'm going to use body attribute because here, as you can see, my token is stored under user token object. So I'm going to use this data. Here I have to specify request that I'm going to use. This is login request. And here you can specify filter using JSON path. So I want to get user. I have to write like that, user, and then I'm interested to get the token. Here, what we have to do, that's it. Now, every time we execute this get request, the token will be pulled from login response. So I can show you. It will look like that. If we switch to the timeline, we can check that our request has authorization header with token prefix and the token itself that we are interested in. So this is how references and how you can create requests that will rely on something that you already have from your previous requests. And this is really useful. Let's say you want to check some CRUD operations. You can use create operation to create something. We will have like example for that. Then you can reference what you get to the subsequent request for updating this entity, and then you can delete it also using some reference to the previous requests. So for now, our database is empty and we don't have any articles. So let's create some. For that, I'm going to use Insomnia plugin called Faker. Just quickly how to get the plugins. Here in Insomnia, you have in preference plugins tab, and as you can see, my current plugins are Faker and random number. They are activated. To install plugin, you can just copy paste plugin here, and it will be installed. Like if I type Insomnia-plugin-faker and hit install plugin, it will be installed. And the second way, you can just go to Insomnia.rest, then go to plugins, then find your plugin like Faker we are going to use, and hit the button install in core. The result will be exactly the same. And Faker just use some GS library to create random values for us. So here are some examples. You can create random address, company, date, finance, some sentences, words, and so on. Like here you can see address and then zip code. It will generate each time you send the request, it will generate new value. So here I'm using this plugin to create randomly generated titles for my blog posts, descriptions, body, and tags. So how it looks like. You can see that we're going to use Faker. Type of the function is lorem, and the lorem type is sentence. And each time it will generate new sentence in English localization. I can change it. Let's say, what do we want? Let's say we want Russian. So, oh, it's not Russian. So looks like this library has issues. But nevertheless, the logic is the same. Each time you execute this function, you will get some sentence. Again, for description, we will use paragraph. Paragraph is several sentences, like here you can see. I'm executing refresh. Each time I have some new data here. The same is for body, and for text, I'm just using words. So let's see how it looks like. As you can see, I'm using for token the same approach. It will use response from the post login request, and as I previously showed, it will use user token. Great. So trying to execute this request. Request is successful. We have one article. Let's check it out on our web page. So here, let's check it. We see that we have one blog post. As you can see on web, I can read the articles even without authorization. It works like this medium.com. To read articles, you don't need authentication. And you can see randomly generated tags, the description, and so on. So if I execute the same request several times, it will generate several new articles like that. You can check again. So I generated 4 randomly specified articles. Great. So what we can do more? If we work with some environments, mostly we want to check how they are working under different users, roles, permissions, and so on. That's why I created 2 environments. One is for Ayak user, second one is for Skywalker. So let's create Skywalker user. I switch to that environment, then I have to register my Skywalker user. Great. I can log in this user. So let's say we want to follow the first user. We can go to our profiles page. We can check that user Ayak is existing. We are not following it. We want to follow Ayak. Okay. Here I'm using post request, specifying user that I want to follow. Executing. Great. Now we have the following true. So what does it mean? It means that if I check my feed of articles, I should get the articles from Ayak user. You can see it works. If I switch to my first user and then repeat login like that and then go to the feed, it will be empty because my first user is not following anybody. So logic behind is working fine. We can go further if we want to check something from UI perspective. We are free to do anything. For example, let's check out as Ayak. I want to log in. Okay, that's it. User is successfully logged in. I can use new post page to create articles. I can change settings. For us, we can treat this front end part the same as our Insomnia, because it's basically using the same API calls to do all the stuff. What is really interesting, let's say we are testing some web service and we want to check how it works, and we found that it's sending some requests. you can check this request inside your Chrome browser by opening developer tools and checking how it looks like. But imagine you want to do the same in Insomnia. So what you can do, you can just click the button and copy the response, the request as curl. Okay, and then switch to Insomnia. Let's say we want to create new folder of requests, testing, and we will create new request, get settings, for example. I'm just going to paste that curl from browser, and it automatically discovered by Insomnia as a curl command, and you can see it has the URL correctly parsed, and it has all the headers that our Chrome is sending. You can check that it's quite, the list is quite big, but basically most of these headers are ignored by our backend. And in Insomnia, you don't need to delete them for not to send. You can just tick the checkboxes, so it will be ignored for your requests. It's also very useful. Let's say you are checking some application and then you want to debug how API is working. You copy that request to Insomnia, and then after some time you want to share this request with developers for them to understand what the bug is and how it works. Here you can do the same, like copy as curl, and it will generate the snippet with all the details. So you can share this command with your developer to reproduce basically what we did before. And this is really awesome when you want to create the bug that is self-explanatory and the developer just needs to copy paste that request like that to terminal, run it, and it will show the same result as we got from our browser or from our Insomnia client. So we did that one. I showed how to organize environments. The rule is if you want to test on different environments like developer environment, QA environment, production, always create environments inside sub-environment. These environments will have different base URL or API URL. It doesn't matter how you name it. And the list of requests will be the same. You just switch the variable by changing the environment. That's it. It's really easy and it works basically like Postman, I would say. Why do you need environment variables? To switch between production, QA environment, and not to change any parameters by hand. That's it. To use plugins, as I show you, you can download from the list of plugins like Faker or any other type of plugins and use during the testing. How to bypass secrets as dependency for requests. As I show you, you have always one request to get some secret. In our case, this is login request. What you have to do is to change all your subsequent requests to use that token. And Also, you can like copy paste that part if you don't want to specify the request everywhere. You can just copy this part, and all subsequent requests, for example, if I want to change that for get settings request that I got from the browser, I can just easily do that. I will delete authorization here, and I will add new bearer token here. Just copy paste, and token will be the prefix. That's it. It works. So basically, that's it. I showed what I have in my pocket. Now it's your turn. I will be glad to answer the questions. Thank you for your attention. Please don't hesitate to ask anything. I will switch to the I will stop sharing and check the chat. So for now, I don't see any questions. If you have, you can just ask, raise your hand, and I will unmute you. Guys?
How about just creating some test automation assertions over in Insomnia? I know it's not part of agenda, but just asking that.
Okay, test automation. I know that for Postman, you can like use some tricks to use this collection of requests for automation. But here in Insomnia, from out of the box, you don't have anything to automate. So you can treat it basically like something that is really for manual exploratory testing. For automation, I think Postman, even though it has all the necessary tools to do it, I would say that it would be better to use some like dedicated libraries and programming languages rather than try to adapt what you have in Postman or in Insomnia without changing, because this is basically is not like it's not agile enough. It's not, you cannot program something, you cannot change something. It has limited scope for the work. That's why I think it's better just to go with some test runner and library that will send requests, and you will be able to change everything you want for your automation. Maybe someone.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, I Anton Shashank here. I have a quick question.
Okay.
So in Insomnia, do we have an option of starting a server? Means basically when we use Postman, we sometimes use it to mock APIs. Like we can just create a mock API for our testing. So can we mock a API using Insomnia?
I don't know. I would say because I have never seen such scenario. We can check in plugins. Maybe it has something like that if you go to the plugins page. But I think that Insomnia is not so like, it's not a combine like Postman. It has less functionality. I believe that for mocking it will not be sufficient.
Shashank, sorry, Anton, to just interrupt. Shashank, I
problem.
think you're asking about how to create a mock server, but just mocking an API, which is a mock API, you can still do with Insomnia. But but I believe you are asking a question like how to create a mock server so that we can create mock requests inside it. With Postman, I believe yes, but not sure with Insomnia.
For mocking APIs, I like to use the tool, how it's called. Yes, WireMock. WireMock for the Java world is a good tool to stop your APIs. It can work as a standalone, it can work as a library. I think for the Java is really nice instrument.
And even I can suggest WireMock. The only reason is you can install into your local host. Whereas when you create a mock server in Postman, you can see the URL, it will be the Postman lib. So whatever the data you create and everything will be known. But whereas with WireMock, it will be up to your local host and your local computer. So I suggest it be as it is. If you want to be secure.
Okay.
Thanks, Anton. Thanks, Rakesh.
You're welcome. Maybe someone has questions regarding what's the difference between Postman and Insomnia. I didn't touch that topic, but I would say that for me, Postman is more like a combine. You can even program inside some JS functions. You can create pre-request functions. You can create post-request functions. It's really very powerful tool. But here you don't have to write any code for just basic communication between service. And that's why I like it. And it works really faster because in Postman, it has like dozens of features and it's really slower when I run it on my computer. But the rule of thumb is that if you are happy with Postman, no need to switch to Insomnia. Insomnia, I would say this is a tool if you are not happy with Postman or if you are not using anything except the browser, then I really recommend to take a look to any kind of REST client. Any other questions? Maybe someone wants to share some experience regarding API testing. We can just propose something for the next meetup. Rakesh, maybe you want to share some experience regarding API testing. Let's schedule it.
Sure, definitely. Because so many people used to ask me about, hey Rakesh, what you need to do about API testing, or what are the things which need to be done. And I've seen people are testing in a different way. So I just would like to share a few thoughts, if you allow me for 2 minutes.
Yes, sure.
Yeah. So from my thinking perspective, I'd like to mostly concentrate on from the request side and response side. For me, there is a request, there is a response. And from request point of view, you can have the CRUD operations, like you can say get, put, post, and delete. And there are other options also there. Making sure what is best for us. There are situations people use post instead of put. I mean to say, make sure if you're creating a brand new resource, I suggest you use post. If you're updating an entire resource, I suggest to go with put. If you're using a partial update, I suggest to go with patch. So understand this HTTP verbs, like what is for get, put, post, delete, and all. After that, authorization practices. There are n number of authorization practices. For example, basic authentication, JWT bearer authentication. There is OAuth authentication, which has client secret keys and all. So understand what kind of authentication we are using in the application. Once you've done with this, then think like, okay, I'm sending a request with some body. So there are a number of ways to communicate. JSON is one way of communication. SOAP
Yeah,
uses
sure.
XML way of communication. And there are some other things. And one more thing I would like to say from the request point of view, understand the request headers. Is there any other headers I am going to send? People usually thinks like there is only two headers. One is authorization and the other one is just content type. But there are a number of headers. It depends upon your developer implementation. And so it's how you develop your APIs. And the second thing I would like to call in request is understand the parameters, whether it is a query parameters or path parameters. Path, so the simple logic I'll tell you, whichever ends with, whichever starts with question mark, easily you can remember that as a query parameter. Whichever ends with a slash, those you can consider it as a path parameter.
Basically, sorry to interrupt. I forgot to show. I
Yeah.
have some example for the parameters here. If you want to show articles by tag, Insomnia has this query editor. You can bulk edit like that, specifying tags, or regular edit like that. Like, for example, let's check which tags do we have right now. So we have like the lore. I'm copy pasting it, and I can change it here. So you can see it got populated, and it shows me only one article.
Yeah.
It's really, I like the way how this user experience integrated into Insomnia. I mean, you have a choice. You can edit some variables one by one, or you can bulk edit it. It's really useful.
Yeah. And I want to add, this is all from request point of view, and people we need to more concentrate on the response point of view. What are the status codes? So learn all these status codes, like what is 2x means, what is 3x redirections means, what is 4x client side errors, what is
Yeah,
5x server side error.
I totally
Yeah.
agree with you. We have a lack, I would say, when I interview candidates for QA roles, I would say that 3 of 5 don't understand this HTTP basics. 3 of 5. And it doesn't matter how many years of experience they have. They just used to work with browsers and all this UI part, and they don't pay attention to everything is what is going on under the hood. That's why I think this is important.
Yeah. And make sure all the response headers are accurate, and make sure all the response size and all these things are pretty much important. And if it is a JSON, you need to understand how to pass the JSON and make sure accurate assertions, because JSON is not like only key value object based. There is JSON arrays also. Sometimes you need to pass through the array and you need to fetch the values. This is all the point from functional testing. I would like to
Yeah,
say teams, 1 minute, Anton, sorry to say that.
no
I would
problem, no
like to
problem.
say as teams, we are just concentrating on the functional point of view of the APIs. There are a number of things we need to do, like NFRs. I can say performance testing of APIs and security testing of APIs and all, because if API is vulnerable, automatically the UI also will broke in the way. So you need to make sure, is there any SQL injection attacks, or is there any cross-site scripting attacks we can do on the APIs? And if I'm doing performance testing, if 1,000 users are accessing my application concurrently on that API, what is the response time? What is the throughput? Okay, if 1,000 hits are there, how many hits are going through, and is there any failing requests and all? So these are the things we need to make sure, like performance, security, and functional point of view. Anyways, I already discussed with you guys. So this is all about, just would like to discuss. Thank you, Anton, for giving me this opportunity.
No problem, no problem. Basically, other participants to communicate like you just did, because it's not only me presenting something. I'd like to attract more people to make this place like open and for anyone to discuss, because now we cannot like spend time together in a room, but we can do it using this Zoom or other tools. And also just to comment some thoughts from you. For assertions, I think if we're talking about automation, it's really important to create a model of your requests and responses, not to assert just, like JSON as object or as a map, because it's really hard to maintain such kind of automation. You should have a model for your entities, your requests, your responses, and then assertions will look like you just get some entity and you want to assert one of the fields inside this entity or the list inside this entity. It's much easier to read such kind of automation. And for performance testing, I personally prefer Gatling tool, but this is a different discussion. So here I just scoped it to one tool that I really like, and I want to spread the word about Insomnia. It saves a lot of time for me when I want to explore some new backend services.
Maybe next meetup or in future meetups, I will also come with some testing concepts and we can discuss.
Yeah, sure. I'm open for any collaboration, for any to discuss something. It's pretty good to have different opinions and discuss different knowledge.
Yeah.
So if guys you don't have any other questions, I think we can continue on our Slack. Please consider joining the group. I've posted the link above, so we can continue our discussion on Slack. Again,
is it in our meetup group? Is the Slack channel in our meetup group?
If you open a chat here on Zoom, you will have two links from my side. One is to GitHub Gist, and second one is ministryoftesting.com/Slack invite. And this one is a link to register on Slack for Ministry of Testing. And inside Ministry of Testing, we have our dedicated channel. This channel called Meetup Abu Dhabi. So here we can continue our discussion. You can just Google Ministry of Testing Slack. It will show you the link. Yeah. Okay. Again, thank you very much for your time. It was my first time showing something like that. Sorry for some interruptions and not smooth discussion. It's an experiment for me.
Thanks, Anton. Awesome.
Thank you, Anton, for
organizing this meetup.
Thank you, Anton.
Thank you, guys. See you. Have a great evening.
Same to you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, team.